Hey guys, I'm Anthony, CEO of Ally Tech Advisors. Let me introduce Brian Busto at Stetson, as well as Joe Horowitz. They are one of the premier cybersecurity companies that we've been working with. Like them to introduce themselves. Brian.
Hi, my name is Brian Busto from Stetson Cybergroup. I am the CEO. I've been in the technology space for about 38 years now. I've been in the cybersecurity space for approximately 13 years. I have some specialties in ethical hacking, uh, audit work, and forensics work is where I spent a lot of my initial career. And that's kind of evolved a lot today to more along the lines of managing day-to-day operations and just cybersecurity across the board for our clients and our vendors and such.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Horowitz. I'm the Director of Compliance and Audit for Stetson Cybergroup. My specialties in my long career has been in compliance and audit, as my title suggests. I've been in corporate, I've been in government, healthcare, you name the technology, the industry, and I've been in it. Predominantly started in financial and operational audits, and then worked my way into information systems and cybersecurity now. I guess most of my background has been for internal controls and making sure that the controls are there in place to ensure that things like this, breaches don't happen.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a crazy world we have out there right now with hacking. We see it, clients and so on. It's insane. Tell me something. What do you guys, as far as like what you're seeing out there, as far as like with clientele, what would you recommend for them? Any proactive work that they should be doing?
So I was going to say, each organization has to at least start today with, kind of your basic cyber hygiene. Really covers a lot of those components that will help to, reduce the risk of an organization being compromised through emails, through phishing, and through any type of manual type ransomware or such type work that might occur. But really starting to build out a program, taking it in small steps, allocating the time and resources that are needed to do it, and just piece by piece start to build that program out. And again, start with the small stuff and continue on. That's the most important thing I keep trying to tell organizations all the time, because you do these different types of assessments and such, and you get reports that are miles long, and it becomes extremely overwhelming for anybody to look at it and kind of understand what they need to do or how they need to do it or where they're going to get the time and money to do these things. So one of the things that Joe and I have been really spending a lot of time on is trying to really take those assessments and break them down into smaller pieces. And by that, it's bite-sized pieces that you can, whether it's a one-person company or a 1,000-person company, we can figure out what resources are needed and what type of monetary funds, if any, are needed to particularly get to that, win that we're trying to accomplish in the building of that cybersecurity program.
Okay. Yeah, because one of the biggest things we run into too with the clients is that we have no money for it. It's we have no money for spending on these type of services and so on, and it's usually after the fact, after a hack, suddenly funds become released, unfortunately. But as a monetary amount, like I typically go in, depending on the industry, the client and so on, I give them an approximate based on industry standard what their percentage budget should be spent on IT in general. All right, that includes maybe your technicians, your software, your services, your contracts, and so on. And the industry standard is anywhere between 3 and 11% of your budget, depending on the industry you're in. If you're in healthcare and so on, where you have more compliances, it's on the higher end. What do you see regarding that? What should a business be allocating in their budgets for this these days?
I think it depends on how much risk they're willing to accept. In the building of your program, while you're laying out the components of what you're trying to accomplish, the dollars and the time resources that need to be spent on those should be based upon the risk that you're trying to reduce through the organization. So if you have a very, very low risk tolerance, and or nothing's really acceptable there, then you're going to have to spend more money on those particular components. But you want to look at each subset in kind of through a separate lens, because not everything across the board needs to have the same amount of money put to it. Building policies, building procedures out, which are some of the most important things, and may not even have a cost if you have resources in the office or close resources that can help to kind of build those out. And that builds out a repeatable nature in the organization. So, maybe you don't have all the best tools in place, but having that repeatable environment will help to reduce any of those risks that are occurring from people not following the same or the right processes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just want to add there that I think a lot of these organizations, and we go in there and we tell them that when you're addressing cybersecurity as a budget line, it's not just an IT budget line. IT is part of it, and definitely you should have the right applications and software and technology in place to protect you from a certain perspective. But you need to remember the other aspect of things. You're budgeting for employee education, which you have to have. I mean, we see so many employees that you ask them the questions and they really don't know what's going on in the world around them with cybersecurity and what they should and shouldn't click. Vendors are another outlying risk that you really need to manage those vendors a little bit better. You have to make sure that there's security measures in place there as well. So when we talk to them, we really try to explain to them that you have to think of it more of as administrative costs than just an IT cost, because the stigma around just like, oh, IT wants more money is just not the way that you have to approach cybersecurity risk.
That's a really good point, because it really is an administrative level decision, not an IT decision to be made,
right?
Because this is your business continuity. That's another thing too, is that after a business has been, like, say I'm working on a client right now that was let's say had a cyber attack, and we're buttoning up all the holes and they're fixing everything. At which point, and I'm recommending for them, is that they should be doing some kind of cyber audit, and not just this is a school, for example. Let's use that as an example, and they need to have maybe their policies and procedures reviewed as well. I understand you offer that, right?
Yes. So cyber audits really is an ongoing assessments. You really need to always stay one step ahead of what's going on out there, because as we see in the world today, hackers are getting a lot more sophisticated. They're getting a lot of different ways that they're coming into organizations. So continuous cyber audits should be happening at least annually to make sure that the controls that you're putting in place are being performed annually or performed monthly or performed on a daily basis. It's not a set it and forget it type of thing, because of the sophistication and the advancement of all the things that are going on out there. So we would recommend having the cyber audit to go at least annually. Find out what regulations that you are a part of. If you're an education field and you receive any type of funding from the New York State Department of Education, if you're in New York, you are bound by New York State Education Law 2D, because you're receiving funding from them, and they require all educational institutions to be compliant with that. And that states specifically that you must have things like a data protection officer, and you must be compliant with the NIST cybersecurity framework. So those are kind of things, and the NIST cybersecurity framework has a great framework of controls to put in place to protect you, not just the cyber insurance side of things, because that's not going to protect you, but controls that will actually protect. And these are what these assessments do, to make sure that those protective controls are in place, so that you're not in the newspapers, you're not having ransomware and losing money.
Yeah, that's another piece of this, is the social end of it, as far as the reputation of the business. I think statistically talking is that 60% of all small and medium businesses go out of business in 6 months after a ransomware attack, because of not being prepared to be able to handle it. Because that's another piece of it too, is what happens after. What happened? Let's say a business gets hacked. What is the process? What's the procedure? What's the first phone call?
Well, your incident response plan should be in place, and that will kind of guide who you should be reaching out to and what you should be doing. But for the most part, your first call should be always to your lawyer. You want to get client privilege and whatever's needed first. Second call is generally to your insurance company. Most insurance companies today have pretty versatile staff of employees where they'll have your breach coach, they'll have your remediation team to do the forensics and incident type of work. So those are really the first couple processes. You want to obviously make sure that the staff also understands what their responsibilities are. So if it's my computer that was compromised, I'm not shutting that computer off. You need to train the staff that you want to pull the Ethernet cable out and leave that computer on so that the forensic information is still available. So when the incident response team comes in, gathers all that, the forensics can be analyzed, and you can look back and say, all right, well, yeah, this isn't the computer they came from. They actually came from the server, and you want to understand the preference of how these events happen so that you can, accurately reduce the risk of it happening again.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's like I said before, it's a crazy world out there, and as far as like the type of like attacks that are happening now, what are you seeing out there as far as the most prevalent?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now the biggest thing is obviously email campaigns, but they're not campaigns anymore. They're actually very well written, very well executed campaigns to specific people or specific groups within a company or such. So that's the biggest thing right now. And obviously, once you get access to a system, then you can deploy your ransomware and such. But business email compromises and phishing campaigns are still up there. That's the one that's happening repeatedly. The one interesting thing that I've noticed of late, and for many of the different incidents that I've been involved with, they're very specific on what they want. Sometimes they go in, they're looking for money specifically, and that's all they do. They do nothing on the computers at all. They just are tricking the end users to think that they're doing something incorrect, or using some tactics to making them feel like they did something incorrect. They're also, with the email campaigns themselves, they're very specific. A lot of times, making it look like it's from the same domain. There's just an S at the end, or instead of an I in the middle, there's an L. That's a really big one. And we've seen, I just saw two companies in the last week and a half. One just sent 750,000 and the other one sent 250,000, and they still have not got their money back yet. So those were from domain name changes. So those are the biggest things that we're seeing right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And to add a little bit to that, Brian's 100% right. And, they still do throwing a lot of darts at a dartboard, hoping, but they really do their homework on the people in the organizations. People like to give out information, whether it be on social media, and it's very easy to pick up that information and to then social engineer those people and send those emails that are specifically targeted for them. Also, they like to play on people's emotions. I mean, a lot of times you'll see a lot of emails that have to do with giving towards a charity, or someone is sick and they need to provide, they need some a GoFundMe or something like that. And there's just really no ethics there when they're doing these emails.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, I'm assuming AI is starting to play a part in this too, with the phishing attempts, as sophisticated as it's getting. What have you seen?
Yeah, AI is, boy, talk about a change in the game. It's being used for so much today. It can write code to do specific things. You can have it develop different types of phishing campaigns on different types of industry. There's so much you can use in AI nowadays, and we're still in the infancies of it. I'm a little nervous about how this transition is going to continue. I mean, because you look at it on the good side and how much good it's doing, but there's a lot more that it could do on the bad side. And it's there's a lot more tools out there now. They're very readily available, and it's definitely a nerve-wracking thing that I'm worried about in the future at this point.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is like just some closing thoughts on this. Like as far as like your thoughts as far as like what businesses should do, or their first steps. That they're hearing this message. What's the first things they should be doing?
Okay, so I would say, what we're seeing in a lot of the businesses today, they're relying on cyber insurance to be their end all be all catch all. Cyber insurance is not there to protect you from an attack. It's really there to help you with the costs after an attack. You should really be changing your mindset to protect and detect things sooner rather than later, educating your people, putting these technologies and controls like education in place to really better not be in that position. It's no longer of if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And the more layers also that you put in to make it harder for them, the quicker you can also detect something from happening. And as you were saying, these smaller businesses that go out of business after 6 months, maybe they can really they can prevent that from happening. And it takes, even though you're paying these premiums, maybe you pay a little bit less premiums because you have more controls in place. And it's really just getting into that mindset and into that culture that, hey, cybersecurity is not about after the fact anymore. It's really making sure it just doesn't happen. Don't expect it. Try to do everything in your power to prevent it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, to me, businesses first need to know and understand what their most important assets are. So, yeah, you look at the technologies and these different things, and you got to work with your technology teams. You need to figure out where the data is that's important, understand what that data is, and then figure out your ways to protect that data and the assets that hold that particular data. So, if you have limited resources again and you have limited budget, you want to protect your most important crown assets that are there. So, at least starting with those, and let's just say it's 4 servers and 1 computer that accesses those, put the most protection in place around those, and then start to work into the rest of the environment. So, again, it's coming up now with try to be more creative, but the main focus is to protect those critical assets first.
Oh, great. Those are great points. Well, this was great talk. Thank you for all the information. And again, this was Brian and Joe from Stetson Group. And this is Anthony from Ally Tech Advisors. Thanks you and have a great day.